Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Amazfit PowerBuds Pros. These are a pair of TWS wireless buds that have a lot of interesting tricks up its sleeve. For one, because they're by Amazfit, the company behind lots of popular smartwatches including the Bip, the GTS, and the GTR line, the emphasis of their buds is also on fitness and health tracking. So this actually has a built-in heart rate monitor that can track your beats per minute when you're exercising. The Pro model now just adds active noise cancellation up to 40 decibels, so you can cancel out any engine sounds. Plus, the other new feature here is something called cervical spine posture reminder. So there is a motion sensor or accelerometer built into the stem of these buds, and it will know if you're tilting your head forward versus backwards. Once again, this is compatible with their companion app called Zepp, which is also used to control their smartwatches, and you're able to do things like change the equalizer, and it will last upwards of 30 hours with the battery case combined, which is pretty good. Although if you're using active noise cancellation, that's a little closer to around 25 hours. They will automatically play and pause your music when you remove them or pop them back in. And when you start running, by the way, it will recognize that and start to record that session, as well as even change the profile of the music to sound more energetic by boosting the bass when you're working out. Even the touch controls on the buds have been redesigned from the ground up. So there is one on the very top of the stem, like on most wireless buds, and then there's two more touch points on the edges of the stem, so you can press on it sideways to command other actions. They are retailing at $150, which definitely makes them compete with other more premium wireless buds on the market. If you don't need the active noise cancellation and also the posture reminder function, you can get similar functionality via the previous generation Amazfit PowerBuds, the non-Pro edition, which is also selling for under $100. So here's the packaging. It has this kind of texture to it that slightly shimmers on the light, and we have some of the main specs again reiterated on the sides. There's also hearing protection reminders that will tell you if your volume levels are too high. Then on the inside, we have, of course, just the buds themselves, underneath which we'll get the accessories such as the USB Type-C charging cable, although it's worth noting that these don't have Qi wireless charging. We do have also the adjustable silicone tips to get a more snug fit. I am pretty surprised at how compact the case design is, considering it packs active noise cancellation and all of these crazy sensors. So here it is next to the regular AirPods. You can see it's just barely thicker and a touch larger, but really this thing is super easy to still slide into pockets. It's made out of a coarse plastic material but feels actually very solid. A status LED lights on the front, along with the Type-C port there for charging, and there's also a reset pin on the very back. The door here is magnetic, and when you open it up, they automatically turn on and start to pair and connect with your device. So it is a very fast and seamless process. Buds are held into place magnetically so they won't accidentally fall out. Now, speaking of the buds, they also have kind of an interesting design in terms of their shape. It has some of these sharp edges going on, but overall they were still comfortable and lightweight. I would say ergonomics have been improved compared to the previous version of the Amazfit PowerBuds, which were more of a dot style, and that one was a lot heavier and thicker. Now here's a quick contrast with the regular, let's say, AirPods, and you can see how the stem is actually a little bit shorter, although the thickness is still a touch thicker, but really it's not by too much anymore. So looking a little more closely, there is a microphone on the front, along with additional mics on the edges, just to pick up your ambient noise and cancel that out. Another mic here at the stem here is for communicating and talking, charging contacts, and here is the proximity light sensor that's used to detect if you're wearing these or not. They can be used as mono or stereo buds. And then there's also a little bit of branding info along with these two little dots on the edges. That's how you can delineate between the sensors on the sides if you want to tap like this to control certain actions, versus the front tap here is really just used for workouts. And when you're running, for example, you can tap on it. It will tell you your current heart rate, your current speed and calories burned and distance, compared to going like this, which you would use for playing and pausing the music, skipping tracks, things like that. And overall, it is actually a pretty comfortable gesture, definitely different compared to other buds, and it takes a few moments to get used to, but it doesn't apply that much pressure since you're not pressing anything down, and overall, it still felt responsive in my taps. And then in terms of the heart rate sensor, you can kind of make it out from the edges here where there's kind of a black portion below the driver. Surprisingly, the accuracy of this has been pretty good so far compared to heart rate monitors attached to smartwatches on your wrist, so I didn't really see a huge difference there. So overall, this is a very clean, it's a simple, minimalistic design. Before we talk about the audio quality and performance, let's take a closer look at the companion app, which as aforementioned is called Zepp. Under the profile section, you can tap on the PowerBuds Pros to take a closer look at additional details like the battery of the case, as well as go through different ANC modes if you want to control it from here instead of the buds. So you can go through and change the effect, again, adaptive, travel, workout, or indoor, to give you some more granularity, which again is more detailed versus just having ANC on versus off. So there is, again, more customization going on here. Under the hearing health option, it will basically tell you the current volume that the music is playing at and its decibels. Also, it will compensate and measure that depending on the volume of your device. It will also tell you how long you've been listening out of 40 hours that's been recommended for a week. And then the cervical protection, the spine alert, is also surprisingly accurate so far, although it's not going to change every single time that you open up this page. Instead, it presents the average degree of tilt as you're listening to music, indicating that we're starting to apply a little bit more pressure by pointing downwards, or if you're in high versus excessive, then that is really dangerous. You want to correct your posture to prevent any spine problems from developing. 18 degrees also means that it has enough pressure to bear a weight equivalent of a cat sitting on my neck, reminding you to adjust your angle backwards. And it does this via a series of tones and sounds, which are very gentle. In fact, on this entire pair of buds, you won't hear any language being spoken in terms of the voice prompts. It won't say things like turning on, turning off, ANC on, nothing like that. It's all done through a series of beeps. Gesture settings will allow you to change the touch controls, so whether you want a long press to turn the ANC on or off, or if you want to tap once to either play and pause your music or skip tracks. Although it's worth noting that by default, raising the volume higher or lower isn't built into these commands. So that's something I've been saying since the original PowerBuds. So I do think that they should still incorporate that via a software update if you really want that control, since right now it's only play, pause, skip track commands, and ANC. Under the music equalizer, we have some of the preset EQs that you can play around with, or you can create your own custom EQ as well, just by tweaking all of these elements of the mids and trebles and highs yourself, or go into, again, these ones which have been labeled as pop, dance, blues, classical, jazz, smooth, electronic. They all emphasize different elements of the sound, such as the mids and trebles, versus electronic. It's going to emphasize, let's say, the bass a little bit more. So you can try it, and these do make a bit of an impact on the sound. Final section here allows you to turn on functions like running detection. So if it's detected that motion, it will start to automatically begin the heart rate monitoring and the tracking if you're connected to your phone via Bluetooth, as well as if your heart rate is too high during a session, it exceeds a certain number that you can set for yourself. It will also play a tone to kind of alert you that you should stop. If you want to begin a workout session manually, you can go into the middle tab, any of these by tapping, after which point you can simply start, and your phone will also act as the GPS to track your location, and it will also tell you that the heart rate data is being collected right now via the TWS buds. So I've popped the buds in, and it's telling me that my heart rate is currently 88, 89 beats per minute, so it's continuous, and it will be tracking second to second according to the entire session. So the question here is, if you already have a heart rate monitor on your wrist, then having this as well might be a little bit extra. However, you can go with the choice now of either using this or a smartwatch. Moving into the performance of the audio quality next, I have to say I was pretty impressed with the PowerBud Pros. I do think it's a slight improvement versus the originals in terms of the sound. It's just a little cleaner and more crisp now, and in fact you really won't hear any hints of static, hissing, or any distortion at all aside from the music. And the drivers are also tuned very well. There's a nice punch in terms of the bass, but at the same time it's not overpowering, yet if you are a bass head and you like to hear the emphasis of a drum beat or EDM music, they are indeed very thumpy and satisfying, which is great because they are positioned as workout buds, and this will definitely get you excited as you're running. They get plenty loud, and in terms of mids and trebles, I was still able to detect a lot of detail when it came to vocals as well as instrumentals. They really don't sound tinny or small, and now I would say it sounds as good as the AirPods, if not a little bit better. Even the connectivity was very strong. I never got disconnected from my phone when I was listening to music. The left and right sides were firmly synced together, and I was also able to watch videos on YouTube and Netflix. The video and the audio were also synced together without any problems. With that being said, these still don't have a low latency gaming mode specifically, so if you are trying to play back, let's say PUBG or the most demanding high frame rate games, you can still occasionally have maybe a split second of more lag compared to some that are beginning beginning to offer that functionality. Moving into the performance of the active noise cancellation, I would say that the PowerBud Pros also are doing surprisingly well for something so small and compact. It definitely makes a difference when you flick them on, although things like voices from other folks around you can still occasionally creep in. High frequency sounds remains an area where ANC in general can't still completely cancel out. So in this regard, I would say maybe some of the newest buds from Sony and Bose that are exclusively focused on active noise cancellation might be able to squeeze in even slightly more of reduction in terms of background noise, but this is still doing a really great job. So that is more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the newest Amazfit PowerBud Pros. Again, these are promising a lot in terms of being quite ambitious. Though we can always nitpick at some of the tiny details, I do think that Amazfit have overall done a pretty good job, especially geared towards sports and workout sessions. So thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been our closer look at the Amazfit PowerBud Pros.